Hi, everyone. My name is Marcela, and I'm a doctor from Brazil. I'm very excited to be here today with another IMG stories to complete our series. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Deepak. Dr. Deepak graduated from the SATGS Medical College, Mumbai, India, with honors, then went on to complete her radiology resident at King Edward Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, India. On her arrival in the US, she completed her internal medicine residency at MedStar Harbor Hospital and her fellowship in pulmonary and critical care at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. She has won teaching awards at her residency and also received the Lockhart Conley Award for teaching and mentoring from the American College of Physicians. From a clinical standpoint, her focus interest is on the assessment of smoking-related health and prevention of smoking-related lung disease, including lung cancer. Welcome, Dr. Deepak. To start, we would love to know more about you with some personal questions. So, what do you miss the most in India, and what is your favorite food and places to visit in India? Thank you.
Thanks. What I miss the most is the social interactions, the ability that people just drop in your house. There's no calling and asking when they can come. So the bell is always ringing and people are always coming in, and I love that chatter, and I do miss it a lot. My favorite food is any street food of Bombay or Mumbai, as they call it now. I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, and I love all the street food in Mumbai, and I like all the fast food there. I'm not a fan of like food, but I love fast food. So anything I can get in a food cart, I'm happy with.
Oh, thank you so much. That sounds wonderful. Is there any specific food that you would recommend us to get there when we visit there?
Yes, so if you go to Mumbai, you should definitely get something that they call as vada pav, which basically is two halves of a bun, and then they put a potato. It's like almost like a cutlet, uh, and it's in chickpea flour and potatoes inside. It's fried. Anything fried always tastes good. Non-healthy stuff, right? Then you put this thing inside with a lot of chili and garlic and coriander chutney and everything, and it's just so good. It's so good. There are Bombay is a city of contrasts. There is South Bombay, which is all the fancy places, the Taj, and the gateway of India, and everything is cobblestoned and beautiful, and a lot of unfortunately leftover stuff from the British era, though I love their buildings. And then there is the rest of Bombay, which is the actual Bombay, which, has the slums as much as it has everything else. And if you have ever seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, you see one of the biggest slums in India is in Bombay, in Dharavi. So it's a contrast. So you kind of see everything in Bombay. You see it's a very cosmopolitan city. You don't see one set of people in Bombay. And that's the beauty of Bombay is it's almost like when coming from Bombay to the US, I didn't feel that much of a big culture change because for me, it was about the same.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure everyone here now wants to visit. So to help us today, we also have Hafa and another guest. So Hafa, could you please introduce yourself and then pass the mic to the other CP Solvers members?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rafael. First, thank you, Dr. Deepak, for coming. It's really a privilege to know about your story. You're such an amazing educator. I'm a freshman Brazilian medical graduate, and I was talking in the background with Dr. Deepak and Marcel, anxiously waiting for my year's email since I'm applying this season. So fingers crossed, me and Marcella, we've been through this journey together, and it's been such a blast. And now I'll pass the mic to Vali, who's also here to help with the interview.
Thank you, Rafa. Thank you, Marcela. It's really exciting to interview you, Dr. Janaki. So I'm Vale. I'm one of the CP Solvers members and a medical student in Peru, currently doing a clerkship in Alabama. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vali. We also have Dr. Javi here. If you could please introduce yourself. Dr. Javi have been helping us so much to organize those IMG stories.
Hello, how are you? Lost my voice there last night, yeah, I'm really happy to have Dr. Deepak here. Dr. Deepak, we share a story going back many years. We were in residency together, but she's going to touch on. She has not a very straightforward journey into medicine and faced many hardships. So I thought you'd be a great person for this IMG interviews, just to help everybody that's on this journey that are facing difficulties, whether it be maybe not so great board scores, maybe not having a good background in US clinical experience, maybe feeling like I don't have as much research experience like other candidates, but that shouldn't be a turnoff. I think everybody brings something to the table, and I can definitely tell you, Dr. Deepak, I'll just start with a story. So when I was PGY1, we were in Morning Report. And if you've seen Dr. Williams come on CPS every now and then, he was our program director. And he used to take us to the images in Morning Report and put up a CAT scan, and we'd start interpreting the CAT scan. So going through patient with dyspnea, and this is the CAT scan, can somebody interpret? And we're having difficulty with this CAT scan. And from the back of the room, we hear a voice, a booming voice, and they're describing the CAT scan in detail. And everybody looks to the back and sees Dr. Deepak there. And she's doing a clinical observership. And she correctly identifies the CAT scan. And everybody's like, wow, this is impressive. And from that day forward, she made a positive impression on Dr. Williams. And when it came time to application season, he remembered that and many more other contributions by Dr. Deepak in Morning Report and other conferences and on the floors. And she got matched at the same program. So just like I had Rafa at Sinai. And, when you go to these US clinical experiences, I think Val is at a US clinical experience in Alabama there. When you make a positive impression, you work really hard, you will make an impression. When it comes time to application season, they will remember you. So just a little story or background between me and Dr. Deepak.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Dr. Kunkun. Let me tell you a story about him, since he told you a story about me. So in this observership, I'm really scared, and I'm on his team, and I know nothing about medicine, nothing about medicine. And I'm seeing him, and I'm working. It was one of those days when we were working late. Both of us used to work pretty late. It was about 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening, and there's a small alcove in our telemetry ward. And I hear Dr. Kunkun's voice. And then, I also heard a couple of our medical student voices. So I went there, and he's there teaching them about the ascending loop and the descending loop, and what the filtration occurs where, and how the ions are distributed. I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to be an educator like this? So he is definitely an inspiration for me. And even with clinical problem solvers, he has just, he has made me think about medicine in such a different way. He has a knack of education, which I don't think I have, honestly. And I love learning from him. He's a phenomenal educator. And I was just lucky to match in the program and have him as my resident and co-resident and as a friend throughout the time.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing those stories. As I am IMG myself, I know how much it's helpful to get that inspiration from someone that got there. So I think we are ready to start. I will pass the mic to Rafa.
Okay, so the first question for Dr. Deepak is, could you talk a little bit about your journey before coming to the USA?
So a long journey. Definitely, I wasn't sure of what I was going to come and do. So I came to the US in 1995. I got married. So my journey started even before that. So I started with a surgical residency. I had matched into the only seat, which was very coveted in our institution. I always wanted to do general surgery, never thought about any other branches in my life. And then throughout that journey of 6 months of doing residency, I was the only resident. There were no other co-residents. Everyone had something or the other. So I was the only resident with senior residents. I got sick multiple times. So we would get to go home once in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And I got so sick, I was admitted to the ICU 3 times. And our chest physician there said, you can either live or you can do residency. So you choose which you want to do. And I was like, I need to do residency. I cannot not do residency. I'm not going to be a GP. I cannot do that. He said, you have 2 choices. You have radiology or pathology. I said, I can't do pathology. The formalin sets me off. He said, okay, then think about radiology. I said, oh my God, that's so boring. How can I do radiology? I have to sit in front of a thing all the time. I need to be operating. And he's like, no, go and see somebody else. I said, okay. I listened to him, but didn't listen to him. I tried to do ENT. I did it for 3 months. I was doing phenomenal. I was enjoying all my surgeries and everything. And I got bilateral pneumonia, again admitted to the ICU. And he told me, did I not tell you not to try to do any clinical branch? And I was like, okay, I understand. So then I applied for radiology, which in India is unheard of because you get blacklisted the minute you drop a residency. So I got blacklisted. So we had to beg people to get me to come back into radiology residency. So I got it, but it was not the MD program. It was the equivalent of what we call as the DO program. So it wasn't like the most best seat or whatever, but I still got it in the same institution. And I loved it. I loved radiology. I absolutely loved radiology in India because you actually got to interact with the patients and everything. Then, of course, life came in the way. My mom kept insisting I needed to get married. And they found someone who was in the US. It was an arranged marriage. And, he said, okay, 95, we get married June 9th, 95. And he's like, okay, you're coming with me to the US. And I was like, okay, but, it's the middle of my residency. It's like, no, you'll have to take a drop. So I took a drop from my radiology residency. I was very sad because I was a year and few months into it. And I had, a couple of months and then an optional year after that. And then I was like, okay, whatever, this is what it is. I come here. And then within a year and a half, he's like, okay, let's go back to India. So again, I'm going back to India. This time I told my mom, and she fought tooth and nail with the head of Bombay University, and she got me back into residency. And then, so I completed my residency in 99, and I got a nice cushy job there, doing phenomenal stuff for half a day and still get to interact with my family and everything. My husband said, I'm not liking India anymore. Need to go back to the US. So again, back to basics, kind of come here. In the middle of all this in 96, when I was pregnant, I took my first USMLE Part 1 and I failed. I used to faint at the drop of the hat during my pregnancy. I failed. It was horrible. So now I'm coming back to the US. I have a very bad taste in my mouth because I just feel like I've accomplished nothing. I've done nothing. And then I again retake the exams again. He did tell me, he said, go to the Kaplan classes. I was like, no, it's too expensive. We can't afford it. All bad ideas that I had. I'll study on my own, studying all these books, which nobody read, all the bad books, when you don't listen to people's advice and you read rubbish books. And then I did okay. I passed, but my scores were not awesome. So I applied first year in family medicine, and the program in Pittsburgh said they'll take me, they really want me and everything. Match day came, I did not match. So it was miserable again. And then I felt really, really like a failure. And one of my friends in York, Pennsylvania, at that time told me, listen, there is this program in Maryland. It's called Harbor Hospital. They have this observership program. Why don't you go there? And they even offer externship. I said, okay, I'm willing to do it. So York, Pennsylvania is 60 miles each way from where, Harbor Hospital was 60 miles, 62 miles actually. So I started doing it. I came for observership. I saw all those people. I was like, I'm never going to penetrate here. They all know so much medicine. I know nothing of medicine. I'm never going to do well here. And everyone was clamoring to talk to Dr. Williams. Me, on the other hand, even though I appear to be very confident, I'm not a very confident person. The less confident I am, the louder my voice is, unfortunately. So people think I'm confident. You know, it's like one of those tricks of life. And I was like, the only time I felt confident was when I saw imaging there. Then I could talk about it. Then I was fine about it. So then I started talking, and then I started working hard. And, you know, then I got into the externship program, and I just started working, and I started learning. I would talk to the nurses, talk to my colleagues, try to find out what they knew, learned more about it, read about it. Because in medical school, medicine was the last subject. Like medicine, I literally studied it in 10 days, internal medicine. I never liked it. I got typhoid when I had my internal medicine board exam. So literally I read it for 10 days. My friend read the entire medicine text for me. So that is my knowledge of medicine. That's how I came with zero knowledge. And I learned at the bedside. I loved the ICU because it was a doing, it was a procedural field. It spoke to me. So I loved the ICU, and I don't mind working hard. So I was like, you know, whatever I got to lose, let me work as hard as I could. And I, in fact, stayed with a friend of mine who's been an inspiration for me, Anuradha Lingam. I think Ravi also knows her, Dr. Singh also knows her. And she was really a very nice person. She let me stay with her so that I didn't have to travel back and forth in the winter. And I learned a lot that year. And I was amazed when Dr. Williams told me that he said, I'm going to rank you high and you should rank us high. I mean, what do you mean you should rank us high? I had nowhere else that I was interviewing. There was no other choice for me. And I remember, oh my God, I'll never forget that chief resident at that time. He was just mean. He's like, you know, people say that they will rank you. He's not going to really rank you. You did not even interview anywhere else. You didn't even apply anywhere else. What do you think you're doing? And, you know, I was feeling miserable. So I went to Dr. Williams and I said, listen, this is what the chief resident tells me. And he's like, no, I told you, I've given you my word. You're going to match here. And at that time, I didn't know Dr. Williams. Now I know him very well. I know now that if he gives his word, he means it. And I matched there, and I never let him ever regret it. And that was my thing, that he and Dr. Shu had given me a way of coming into internal medicine residency. Even then he told me, Janaki, go ahead and do radiology, rotations. If you get into radiology, I'm fine releasing you from this program. At least you'll have a transitional program. Then you'll have done 1 year of internal medicine. Try your level best. I'm there with you. And honestly, he stood by me, and I am still amazed as to what I've done to deserve that level of support from him. And Dr. Shu, I'll never forget it. They are truly my mentors and the reason why I'm standing here talking to you all today. So I'm sorry, I went on and on. And then, of course, from there, I tried radiology for 2 years. It didn't work out. And then in my second year, when I was doing my thoracic radiology rotation at Maryland, and again, phenomenal mentors there, Dr. Pugach told me, he said, Janaki, what do you like about medicine? I said, what I like about medicine is the ICU. I really love the ICU. He said, what about pulmonary medicine? I said, I don't know. The pulmonologists we have, they're not inspiring me into thinking about pulmonary medicine. He said, do a couple of rotations here, see if you like it. I did 2 rotations at University of Maryland. I worked my butt off. I mean, even now they have stories on how I worked more than the fellow during that time. And both my letter writers, one of my letter writers ended up being the program director later. And the other one, they offered to write my letters. And that's how I got my letters. I did not think that. And in fact, we had a new attending, Ravi. I don't know if you remember him, Dr. Salinger, who came in it was my second year, it was Ravi's third year, and he came to the ICU for the first time. And he was like, this is rubbish. This is not the way you take care of ventilator. What are y'all doing? So on rounds, it was so stressful for me and Ravi to kind of manage the morale of the team, manage the because we had completely different attendings the previous week and everything changed. I mean, I could see that he was a very, very smart attending, but he kept on like changing and telling us what we were doing wrong all the time. There was not one time when he told us what we were doing right. And so I was so mad. For those who know me, I'm a firecracker when I get like really up, and I was like telling Ravi, we were speaking in Hindi and I thought like, we were safe. And I was telling this attending, all he does is find fault with us. What are we supposed to do? We are just residents. We've got to follow what the attendings say. We cannot make these decisions. This, that. I went on and on. And he found me in the elevator and he's like, so what do you want to do? I said, nothing. And then he came and told me, he said, I understand Hindi. I'm married to an Indian woman. I was like, oh God, I'm done. I'm done for in life. Over. All my plans, everything is over. And then, and then he and me had a very healthy discussion. And, I then developed a lot of respect for him. And when it came to my third year, he's like, I'm sure you're applying for pharmaceutical care. I said, how are you sure? I didn't know about this myself. He's like, no, you're applying for pharmaceutical care. I said, yeah, I am. And he said, okay, I'm writing you a letter. I was like, okay. So none of my letters were people who I asked them to write letters. They offered to write letters, and it was something else, because even in the year between my third year and starting my fellowship, he's the one who got me a job for a year so that I could work with critical care attendings as a hospitalist. And I owe my life and everything that I've done so far to phenomenal mentors. And now I'll stop.
I think Vali has a question now.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Dr. Deepak. This was an amazing testimony from you. I'm really inspired by your story. So we wanted to ask you if during your journey, have you ever realized that there are any perceived biases or prejudice that you experience as an IMG or because of being an IMG?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we cannot put blinkers on our souls just because, we are in the positions that we are in. Definitely there are biases, especially as an IMG woman. As an IMG woman with an accent, 100% there is. I feel that at every journey, every path, every crossing, I've had to work harder than someone else to be recognized, to be promoted. A lot of times certain opportunities were not available to us. And it's funny, right? Like, because if you think about it, I always make fun of the fact that it's not make fun of the fact, I always notice the fact that if you are a woman and you have an accent and you're an IMG, it's like you're the lowest on the totem pole to get something, right? So, but how do you go somewhere? Like anytime someone tells me I cannot do something, I have to prove it to them that I can do it. That is my motto in life. If you tell me I cannot achieve something, I will go about achieving it and show to you that I can do it. That's just my nature. And I just think that that's the way you get inspired. Can we come to a world or a utopia when people stop judging us on where we have trained or what accent we have or how we look? I would love that. I mean, I know that even in India, there is enough of colorism and bias in many ways. So it's not like, it is not just here. It is even in the countries that we come from, we do face a lot of it. And how do you overcome it? You just have to say, okay, let's do it. Let's figure out what's important to us and let's go ahead and do it. And work hard, work as hard as you can. I'm not saying work so hard that you're burnt crisp, that you're ready to die yourself and you are not there for your family. Not that kind of hard, but work smart, get to know people, get to get to impress people in the right way, not just sucking up to them, but by working, by demonstrating that you are something, that you're a person who's worth keeping. Is that making sense?
Oh, incredible stories, Dr. Deepak. I can say for myself, Ravi is a testimony. When I was at Sinai, I had this very, very hard attending on me. But now I see that she wants me to grow as much as I could under her wings. And I actually told Ravi, like, oh, Ravi, I'm having this attending. She's very hard on me. I don't know if I'm pleasing her. I will never ask her for a letter because otherwise she will not write me a good letter. And in the end, she was like, no, I really liked you. I really want to write you a strong letter. So that goes to show that if you work hard and show them all that you can do it, people will come to you and reward you somehow. So thank you for sharing your story. As an established educator, I would love if you could talk a little bit about how images can stand out in clerkships and observerships.
So read, right? Do not, I mean, none of us come with knowing knowledge. Then why do we need to do residency? We know everything, right? So read as much as you can. So if you know that there's a morning report, the morning report is on something, read, but also learn to be a team player. Do not try to talk when somebody else is talking or presenting. Don't try to put someone else down and put yourself in front. When people see those things, that is a big put off. That is something that an educator does not relate well to. But when it's your turn and you're asked a question or nobody else is answering, feel free to answer and say things, and say it as firmly as possible. Do not say, I think this, I think that, I'm not sure. Don't use words like that. Like, say facts as they are, like as much as possible, and in a calm, crisp manner. And none of those I know. I don't know calm manner at all. I am by nature a very passionate human being who has a very loud, booming voice, as Ravi said. But that is how you stand out, right? Your work ethics are something which nobody can take away from you. And work ethics are something that you should absolutely let it shine. And medical knowledge, you will learn it, right? But don't go unprepared anywhere, because if you go unprepared, then you do not get to shine, right? So as much as possible, go prepared for wherever you're going. Does that answer the question? I don't know.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
Maybe we can ask just a little extra, since you're talking about how to stand out during clerkships and observers. What about interviews? Do you have any recommendations, especially now that they're virtual?
Yes, absolutely. So any person you meet during the interview, be nice to them. That's my number one thing. Be nice to everybody. Tell people who you are. Let yourself shine through, right? Like, I mean, who you are, what are you going to bring to the table? Let that shine through and let that come through in a manner which is not like boasting about you. Is that making sense? Like, it's not about, I did this, I did that, more like we did this, or we learned this. Like, being a team player throughout your interview, it should shine out that you're going to be an awesome team player. It should shine out that you have certain features which are very unique to you. Experiences, be it life experience, medical experience, research experience, anything, right? Again, nobody is expecting that you're coming into residency having a whole bunch of research. But if you have done the research, please talk about it, because it's important to know what have you done and why do you see yourself being as part and parcel of the program. Make sure you do your research into the program and who you are interviewing with also, so that you have talking points. That is also extremely important, because sometimes when I interview people, I find that they haven't really looked into what I do. And, there could have been so much of discussion of talking points in that, what, we could have found a common ground, but that is not done. So nearly everybody's profile who you are interviewing with, especially your attendings, are all online. So find out who they are, what they do, what are their specialities, and kind of, find talking points, like find something to talk to. It's just like patients. You go into the patient's room, sometimes the patient's not starting a conversation. So it's like a conversation starter. Think about it like a date, and how do you start a conversation? It's as simple as that.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. The fact that on the interview is not so much the program choosing you. Of course, that's, I guess, what we think because we're in a position as applicants, but also we are choosing the programs too, the place we're going to spend some years. So just a final question, which final piece of advice would you give for IMGs to succeed in the USA based on your experience?
Based on my experience, learn as much as you can, connect with as many people as you can, do as much as you can. Like, never lose an opportunity to volunteer for something. There are many associations and programs and things that they offer for students free, for IMGs free. So be a part and parcel of it. Like ACP, for example, American College of Physicians definitely has free membership for the students. They have many events. Try to connect with as many different mentors as possible, learn from people, and also trying to see what is making them successful, right? Like if you see a person who's really successful in a position, who's giving you a talk, see what is it about them that makes them successful. See the way they talk about something, or the way they are, doing something or connecting with the others. And those are important things, in making you be successful. I'm forever looking, for example, at Ravi and seeing how he's good and how he's successful in talking to people and trying to simulate it. So in life, you're learning all the time. Never forget that. You never stop learning. The day you stop learning, you're dead, according to me. So like, that's when you lose it all. Keep your enthusiasm, because ups and downs are part and parcel of life. Like, you will have different ups and downs throughout your life, but you can't let the downs just define you. You got to kind of find the ups too, because you don't have the downs, you'll never appreciate the ups. So it's all a game of obstacles, and you just have to go through the obstacles and figure out how best to overcome them, and find a good, don't forget your family. They're your best support. And don't forget your friends. They're the best support. If you have friends who are forever comparing what they got into versus you, it's time to ditch those friends.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deepak. That's such an important lesson and such a big motivation for us. I believe Nikita, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correct, has a question. Are you in a position that you can unmute yourself and ask the question for our YouTube viewers later?
Yes, definitely, Marcella. I can certainly ask my question. Hi, Dr. Deepak. It was amazing to listen to you. It sounds like you've made a whole lot of lemonade in your life, because it's so great to hear that you've always made the best out of your situation. So that's very inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing this story. The question that I do have is that I often found that being an IMG, or just being the person that I am, that I'll really need to ask for opportunities to be given to me, just because I'm not acknowledged in the presence of a group of people as an IMG. I've seen a certain difference that in an environment like the US, when I did do my electives, the US medical student was heard more compared to me. And in those situations, I've really fought my way into like getting the opportunities that I did deserve. And they've been amazing, and people have been kind to me. But it often does leave a distaste that, I've asked for it and everything like that. So I think the question that I have is, how do I effectively communicate and, be in a place wherein I'm able to do all the things I've set out to do, and also have my presence be acknowledged at the same time? Yeah,
that's a very tricky and difficult situation, right? Because that is, You don't want to antagonize the people you're with, but you want to be given the opportunity. So I would say that the part of it to do is to show that you can do that better than someone else, to showcase your talents there so that you can do it better than someone else, or do an opportunity, like for example, if there is something, I remember I had a intern in my in the ICU who wanted to do research with me, or I heard from the resident, and I was like, she's an intern. I mean, my God, like where does she have time to do research? And there was a paper that I was asked to write, and she brought me the entire introduction and the discussion of the paper even before I asked her to join on my group. So something like that, it's very difficult for people to turn down. Like when you have self-volunteered and done something, it's not something that, so this intern was not asked by me to join on the paper. I was just, I mean, I had not even known her that much, but she took it upon herself to do it and bring it forward. So you can always like showcase your talent, or your, that you would be a good person for that job. And that intern now is a pulmonary critical care fellow. She is, matched at NIH and is doing her pulmonary with us now. And she has been my mentee for the whole time, and she's doing phenomenally well. But, figure out a way to showcase it without annoying anyone else. Like there are multiple times, for example, in Harbor Hospital, I was not made a chief resident, and that definitely troubled me because I had done a lot of work. But then when it came to rehauling the entire residency rotations, because we now had timing for residents, like we were not allowed to go beyond those work rules, I sat down and I did the entire schedule. And, me and one of the chief residents. So in the end, Dr. Williams and the group had no other go but to acknowledge me as one of the chiefs ultimately, because I had done more work on the schedule than anyone else. I was able to actually make it happen when they were all struggling. So, a lot of times opportunities are not given to you. A lot of times it's not only bias of IMG, it could be other biases too. People are just biased towards you, but you got to kind of showcase that you can do it well and you are the best person for the job.
Can I ask another question, if that's okay?
I'm fine.
I think the follow-up question I do have is that in places wherein you are trying your best and you think you're trying your best, and in places where you're not given the opportunities, how do you overcome that adversity? As in, how do you go through that and understand your worth as a person and your place in a system that you're taking part in?
So you look for people who will help boost you up, right? Like a lot of times at work, I find that I'm not given the opportunities where I would like to be, or what I would like to be for the stage I am in life right now and the things that I've accomplished. But I look to external mentors and external people, and I open up my network to many, many more people, so I get other opportunities, right? You cannot focus on the opportunities that you don't have. You just have to find alternate opportunities. And opportunities exist for those who want to find it. For example, me and Ravi we were asked to be this course directors for the internal medicine board review. Did I ever think that ACP National would ever ask us to be internal medicine course directors as an IMG? I never thought about it, but it was because I had that big mentorship circle, and one of the mentors from outside my institution recognized my worth, and that's how I kind of got into that place. So basically it just is, it's not that you're going to get every opportunity that you want. You may just find an alternate opportunity, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Deepak.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the question, Nikki. I believe Dr. Javi has a comment, a question.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to mention something about that. It's just interesting, Janaki, we were talking about, we're not part of the elite circles that usually get these opportunities. So we sort of question each other, like, are we worthy to lead a national ACP course? But in 2022, 2021, things have changed where now people that do not fit the usual description are given opportunities. So whether it be people of color, of underrepresented minorities, of different sexual orientation, gender, are being given opportunities, are being recognized. So things are better. So we then took it upon ourselves to at least take this opportunity and do a really good job, or try and do a good job. But sometimes you have to really work harder, because then you're judged differently. So there's something there. So we definitely had some what we call this imposter syndrome sort of phenomena. But I just want to highlight, Dr. Deepak is an incredible educator. She is, I had the privilege to accompany her to ACP national meeting in Chicago, where she received a national teaching award. And it's just amazing looking at her journey from, she just mentioned failing step one. And you don't hear that nowadays. Back in the day, it was incredibly hard to get a residency with having failed a step. A lot of program directors will look at that as saying, well, this person will likely not pass the board exam, the internal medicine board exam. So this person is filtered out from the application process. So I do get a lot of questions from people, a lot of applicants emailing. It's very difficult. I don't know. Janaki, I guess because you supplemented the application with hard work. Nowadays, even that is a rare opportunity, because a lot of these externships, observerships are closing down. For students, we did open up, like Rafa knows, we have a number here. Diti, a couple of other people were here before. Siriram was here. So students, Shreya, she came through, they all came through Sinai, because we opened the doors for this free rotation, and we got to see incredibly gifted medical students. And you're absolutely right. I do see a discrepancy in students. You have some that will work very hard, and without even asking them, you have a patient with TB, next day they come with a little talk. Oh, I read about TB and this is what I found. I'm like, holy cow, that's phenomenal. Others will just get by and just do, the minimum and expect a letter and so on. But these sort of I guess quality or attributes are what letter writers want to see, or letter readers want to see. So I made sure to incorporate those, what sort of made them stand out, put that on their letters, and that will actually get them, I guess, put at the top of the pile of the rank order list. But yeah, Janaki, it was interesting back in the day when we had exam prep. Kaplan was the premier exam prep course, and you actually had to go to a center to look at the questions and so on. Now you have UWorld. So I was lucky to work with Dr. Pemasani, who came up with UWorld. So back in 2000s at Sinai, he was doing his visa waiver job, and he was sitting at home on his computer making UWorld. And UWorld has just sort of revolutionized the whole exam prep platform or world, actually. So it's interesting how the exam preparation has changed. And but I think now with the low, what do you think, Janaki, like with those that we have people that have failed a step, or maybe have a lower step we had taken at Sinai? I know at some places people have taken it just to sort of have a wide variety of applicants, have taken lower scoring applicants. What is your thought on this?
So I agree with lower scoring applicants, right? But now the technology that's available, the questions that's available, the information that's available is so much more. So I agree 100% that everyone's not a test taker. I'm not a test taker. I do not like multiple choice questions. I just cannot do well on them. So I don't think that we should be judging by the basis of scores. And now step 1 scores are eliminated, right? It's either pass or fail. So it's only a step 2 score. And then and then CK is not even a thing now, right? Like, I mean, it's not even been there since COVID. So, but on the other hand, I argue now that the amount of literature that's available for you to read from, to learn from, to practice questions is so much more than when we were there, right? Because these things, it cost me nearly 10,000 rupees at that time to buy all my NMS series books at that time. And that was a lot of money for someone who didn't have that money at that time, right? I'm not saying that it's not expensive, but there's so much available. And so low score to me is not, I mean, and even failing is not a thing, but you know, there's always going to be the question, why did you fail, right? Because I understand why the people, why they are filtering it out, like without any other option, because they're getting 5,000. So that's their easy filter, right? Failed, easy filter. But that doesn't mean that if you have failed, should just take it lying down and not put yourself out there or say other things about yourself in your supplemental application and say why you failed, have a reason for it, and prepare as much as you can, right? That's what I would say now. But I wish we could eliminate all exams. That's what I really think. I wish there was a way to have people come for, like what you're doing in Sinai, right? Have people rotate through. We get to know them and then decide if they need to come to residency or not. Because both me and Ravi have both worked with co-residents who topped their exams very well. But when it came to the patient bedside, I don't want them anywhere near my family members.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Deepak. This is very helpful and very like a big motivation for us. And we very much appreciate all those opportunities for IMGs. I believe Vivek has a question. Are you in a place that you can unmute yourself and ask the question? Oh, if not, I can ask the question here. So let me see. Yeah, he cannot unmute. So he was asking, but for IMGs who have worked as physicians in their home countries before applying to residency, how can we showcase the value of that work without it being seen as simply a gap between the graduation and the residency application?
Well, I mean, I think that my story kind of says that, right? I had already worked as a radiologist back home. And, I think that the way you do it is in a subtle way, not by when there is an opportunity to showcase what your talent is, you do it. Like, don't kind of speak out of turn, but if there is an opportunity for you to kind of chime in or say something, you should definitely say it at that time. And also, if there are needs for any write-ups on anything, or doing something when you're doing an elective or when you're doing a rotation, then you should kind of sort of volunteer for it and say, here is the information, or even lit search and things like that. Help somebody with a lit search, for example, and say, here is the lit search I've done on this. These are the big points in the lit search that I've come across. And I thought it would help you, whether or not your name comes on that journal, but that person will not forget that you've done the lit search.
Thank you so much. Shaya has her hands up. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correct. Please correct me. You can ask your question now.
Hi, Marcella. That you got my name almost right. Shreya is how you pronounce it. Also, thank you so much, Dr. Deepak, for your candor. And at this time, it really is refreshing to hear like a real story, because social media at this day and age can sometimes make you feel like everyone's leading these perfect lives, and it's just you that's somehow not up there as yet. So thank you for your honest story. It's been really inspiring. As someone who's just applied and I'm preparing for interviews, I've been asking myself a couple of questions, and along with introspection, I've also gone to people around me and asked them what you think my weakness is. And one that I in fact got today and was that I'm bad at self-promoting. So when I first heard that, I thought, okay, is self-promotion like boasting? Like, isn't that a bad thing? I shouldn't be boasting. So, but then I actually looked it up, and there's a whole definition for it. It's how like you sort of showcase what you've done and sort of publicize it, not just keep it with yourself. So I can show that I can work hard, like in a hospital in front of others, but sometimes I work on things at home and I'm too afraid, or I'm worried that it may not be good enough to show someone. So I sort of just stack it up and keep it with me. How do I gain the confidence to share and just put myself out there a bit more?
So I'm putting myself out there with you guys, telling you about my story. It's very, as I told you, I'm actually an introvert, and I actually find it very difficult to talk to people. So you'll not ever find me going and, as you call it, what is the word? Networking. It's very difficult for me to do it. But I've learned over time that you just talk to people, because the other person has as many hangups as you have. So you talk to people and you think that you're talking to your friend, and then you just tell them the story that you want to tell about yourself. And just as I said, it's like, think about every single interview or every single interaction that you're going to have as a first date, and how you want to make an impression in that first date, right? Like, and try to see how best you can do it in that very short period of time where you're trying to get to know someone, but you want them to see the best side of you so that there can be a second and third date. So I don't know if that, I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible, but that is what I would do, is keep doing it, keep talking to people, keep talking as many times as you can. Then it becomes second nature to talk. Then it doesn't become something that you have to do, right? And there is everyone has good points. It always comes across when you talk. And then you have bad points too. And, the fact that you're introspecting on what are your weaknesses and strengths itself tells me that you've already crossed the barrier and you're already doing so well for yourself, right? The biggest problem that people have is they don't introspect and they don't figure out what is good and bad about themselves. So you're already 10 steps ahead of the game, Shreya.
Thank you so much, Deepak, Dr. Deepak. That was really helpful. I think what I got also from yours is that what you said is that I need to just do it as sort of like a Nike thing. Just got to go there and keep doing it. And at one point, I'll stop overthinking it also. So I think, thank you so much, Dr. Deepak. Thank you.
I just one comment, Janaki. So Dr. Deepak does an incredible amount of work for ACP Maryland. It's one of the premier, I guess, state part of the organization of national ACP. So each state has its own sort of branch, and she does organize the doctor's dilemma for the resident competition, the course that we do during one of the weekends in February. And then she does the students' doctor's dilemma as well, so student competition as well. Could you tell about the student, Dr. Williams Student Conference? It's a great venue for students to showcase their work if they're in this area. It's an ACP sort of led student conference, which is free, and you can win. One of our residents actually won a poster award there, so that also recognized her, and we were very happy to have her in our program. So could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So the student conference, it actually started off with the armed forces used to host it, and then we took it over a couple of years back. and it's nearly always held at Harbour Hospital. Basically, we have students from all over. It doesn't matter which school you're from. It's a free registration. Usually it's the end of February, beginning of March. And I think last year we held it at Midtown, and this year also the plan is to hold it at Midtown Towers. And you come in, if you have a poster, if it's a case, if it's anything you have put together, you can come for it. We have different lectures during that on many things, including how to be successful versus how to counteract bullying and discrimination at work versus the student dilemma. And then you have different other workshops. There are things like I don't know if this year we're going to have it or not, but there are simulation workshops where you learn how to do certain procedures and things like that. And you get to meet not just mentors, you get to meet like who's who in the ACP Maryland chapter, including the governor, a lot of faculty from both University of Maryland, Hopkins, Sinai, from GBMC, from St. Agnes, from all the local hospitals, from Midtown, and you get to meet many, many program directors there. So it's a very good venue for coming and listening in and showcasing and participating in Jeopardy. We have student Jeopardy teams are often formed just on the fly. So you come there, it's not about what you know, it's about participating in a game. When I studied for Jeopardy, I knew nothing about Doctor's Dilemma. I was the least likely candidate to have been on that Doctor's Dilemma team, but then I had to just show that I could do it. It was all about that. I just had to do it. So that's how I got into Doctor's Dilemma. And honestly, I like it because it's just bite-sized information. So it's not like a paragraph of information. I'm much better at bite-sized information rather than paragraphs and paragraphs of information. So, I'm not ashamed to say that I have still not completed reading Harrison still today, because I just can't read it. I'm not a textbook reader. I can never read a textbook. It's never possible. As long as it's visual for me or it's auditory, I can do both of them. But my God, reading a textbook puts me to sleep. Every time I've opened a textbook, I've fallen asleep. So I wonder sometimes how I'm still able to assimilate my knowledge. But I learn from everyone around me whenever they are speaking.
I also want to say Reza Manish, when he was in Baltimore, was a regular attendee at that conference and gave many, many lectures to students to motivate them and get them involved with medicine. I think also, go ahead.
Ravi, the other thing that we should mention is that, so the chapter meeting, which I think is on 28th and 29th January, I have to look at the dates again, ACP Maryland chapter meeting actually has a student corner, and it's really good because they have attending from Hopkins who does the entire physical exam and teaches you how to do a good physical exam, and they have many other talks which are organized. So it's absolutely worth it if you are in the area to also come in for that. Again, it's free registration, and there are many other talks during this time. The Fridays are entire virtual and Saturdays in person. So you should try to come because it's in Turf Valley and it's absolutely worth it. Sorry.
I want to highlight that. So for the bedside teaching, it's Dr. Brian Garibaldi for the Society to Improve Bedside Teaching, I believe. So very, very good teacher of bedside examination. And Dr. Gigi Liu does point-of-care ultrasound for the students as well, which is very helpful. We had her on VMR as well.
Well, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much, Dr. Deepak, for being here today. We really appreciate your kindness to help us and inspire us all here today. And thank you everyone for participating in the chat. We had an amazing time here. I'm sure we are all inspired by your history and the wisdom that you shared here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Good luck to all of you. You're all going to shine. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.